I've been thinking over the last few days about making a video about the coronavirus and how we should react. I've filmed several times and then deleted the footage. It's a big responsibility about what you say and the impact it has, and we should all be using social media in a way that's very responsible. So, here's my thoughts. The first thing is people are not taking it seriously enough, what's going on. Especially if you're in countries where it's not as bad as Italy and it's not as bad as thousands of people dying. It's going to hit every country. So if you just follow the statistics, Italy just 2 weeks ago, they were on par with the UK. So going by that, all over the world, we're going to be seeing what's happened in Italy. It's going to happen all over. Hopefully it won't, but this is what it looks like at the moment. The hardest hit countries obviously are going to be those with the poorest infrastructure, and many people at the moment, they may have the virus, but there is no testing. So there's no mass testing going on, so they don't know they have the virus. So only selected people are being tested. In some places, even people coming forward with symptoms are turned away because there isn't enough testing kits to go around. So just because you're in a country where there's very little numbers of people with the virus, it doesn't actually mean that's the case. So this is something very deadly serious, and we need to be worried. If we look back in history, around 100 years ago, during the 1918 Spanish flu, 50 million people died. 27% of the world was infected. People refused to listen to instructions that were given, and they traveled. Look, we need to follow the authorities. In whatever country you are, just follow the authorities. Whatever rules they are telling you to follow. Self-isolate. Understand that you may have symptoms after 14 days of contracting the virus. So for 14 days roughly, you may have the virus and you're going around spreading it, but nobody knows you have it because there's no symptoms. So just follow the authorities. During the Spanish flu, people were not listening to the authorities. People were still traveling out and living in conditions that were conducive to the virus. The actions that we're taking now is going to impact the lives of the future generation. So we need to be very careful about the way that we act, the way that we use social media. So the first thing that I wanted to share is just follow the rules, follow whatever guidance is being given by your local authorities. The second thing is, at this time, this is the perfect time to bring out the worst in humanity. People become very selfish. They start to think, let me go out and hoard, let me go out and get stuff and just fill up my house and I'll be fine, my family will be fine. This is very tempting. I've been tempted myself over the last couple of days, but I just had to fight myself and say no, just act normal, buy the normal things you would buy. When my wife went out to do some essential shopping today, I said to her, just get what you normally get, don't buy anything extra, because everything has a effect, it all adds up. So that's the second thing. Just be selfless, just understand that we're in this together, and there is no reason to panic, buy and do this stuff. Just act the way you'd normally act, and just understand that you are going to make the situation a lot worse by your actions. And the third thing is to be patient, to understand that this is not going to be over tomorrow. It's not going to be over in a few weeks. It's a long-term issue. We don't know how long. Many of our loved ones, eventually we will get the news that this person has been infected or that person's been infected already, I'm sure. because I've already experienced this, I'm sure you guys have as well, that you either know of people that have been infected, or you know of people who know people who've been infected, and you're getting Facebook messages of, people saying, my grandfather, he was infected and he died, and so these things are happening, and that circle is going to get tighter and tighter. So we just need to be patient. We need to understand that there is no other response except the response of patience. There is nothing else we can do. We can't. We live in a world of instant gratification, of instant results, of instant solutions. Well, it's not going to happen in this case. We have to think in the long run. How long is it going to take, and just prepare for that mentally. Another thing which I really wanted to share, and obviously this is more for Muslims, but anybody who's on the channel who's not Muslim, who thinks this is beneficial, this is for you as well. We're in for a very hard time right now. Things are going to get very tough very soon. We need to spiritually develop ourselves. We need to reconnect with God. We need to have a strong relationship with God. In fact, one of the scholars of Islam, Imam Shafi, he said that the best thing during a plague that you could do is tasbih, and tasbih is remembrance of God, remembering God. I know this is a very difficult thing to do, that during this hard time where everybody's thinking about what should we do, and they're continuously checking the news and continuously checking on family members. I know it's very hard to, in this mess, to look at the bigger picture, but the bigger picture is nothing will happen except what God has already decreed, and whatever's bound to happen is going to happen. And what we need to do is we need to make ourselves spiritually ready for the tests which are going to be coming. In the Quran, God tells us that He's going to test us. He's going to test us with everything, and all human beings are going to be tested. So this event that we're going through, it seems a bit surreal. I can understand why I myself sometimes think, wow, is this really going on? But yeah, it is really going on, and we need to start preparing mentally for something that we don't want to think about, because that thing that we don't want to think about is a reality that's already hit some people, and that is death. Death of our loved ones, potentially our own death. We don't know. We really don't know. So the best thing we could do at the moment is at least mentally prepare yourself to understand that this life is a test. This life, compared to the life of the hereafter, is a drop in the ocean. And we just have to mentally, psychologically have this conviction that either we're going to pull through this or alive, or we're not going to pull through this alive, but we will end our life in a way, not end our life, I'm sort of mixing up words here. We will get through, we will either live or not live, but we should, with the remainder of our life, however long we have left, we should live in a way that is pleasing to the Creator. Because fundamentally that's all that matters at the end of the day. We are going to be hopeful. We're going to be supporting the people looking for the cures, supporting and praying for the people who are actually working on the front lines to protect humanity. Of course, we're going to be taking all those precautions. However, mentally you have to be prepared for the worst, because it's better to be a farmer who is, not a farmer, again, I'm mixing up words. It's better to be a warrior in a garden than, a farmer in a war, something like this I heard before, which is just to do with, it's better to be prepared and the event doesn't come than be unprepared and the event does come. And the way things the way things are looking at the moment, it's very, very unlikely that this is going to blow over. Things are going to get a lot worse before they get better. We're talking about an economic slowdown. We're talking about massive health issues, deaths, contamination, breakdown of potentially, communication. Internet may slow down. There may be so many different things going on. So my sincere advice to everybody that this reaches is just mentally prepare yourself for the future, because right now we are just before things get a lot worse. We're just on that, if you like, the edge of the cliff. So this is the time to mentally prepare yourself, because there'll be a lot more to come. And I'm sorry this message is not positive. Well, it is positive from the perspective that faith is something which gives you hope. Faith is something which, as Muslims, we believe that God is the way you think about. So if you think about God in a positive way, God is like that. If you think about God in a negative way, God is like that. And even the Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that, and basically I'm paraphrasing here, but it's part of excellent worship to think good of God, think good and be hopeful, being optimistic. In fact, despairing of God's mercy, despairing of becoming hopeless. This in Islam is actually haram. It's actually forbidden. We should never despair. And in Islam, we have the belief that calling upon God, this is something which not only Muslims can do, but even a non-Muslim can call upon God, because God listens. It doesn't matter whether you're a sinner or you're a saint. At the end of the day, we all have the same creator. So calling upon that creator, asking for help, asking for strength, asking for guidance on what to do, God is not going to ignore your prayer. Especially those prayers that we say in our moment of our weakest moments, our moments where we think we've got nothing now, there's nothing we can rely on, right? Because everything at the end of the day is an illusion anyway. In reality, all things go back to God. Everything happens because of God. But because we live in a time of abundance, well, we used to live in a time of abundance, we're going into a different era now, but we become heedless of this and we start to think we're self-sufficient. But in reality, everything, every atom in this universe is dependent upon God. And calling upon God is our only way of coming out of this mess that we are just headed straight into. I'm going to be using this channel as a way of sharing information about the coronavirus, sharing not only ways of things about self-isolation and just practical help, but also spiritual advice, because that's what we need right now as well. Not just the physical, quarantining and medicines and the latest updates, but also how we can come out of this trial, this tribulation which God has put upon us, and how we can come out in a way that we gain God's pleasure and we don't lose out in the next world, and we don't lose out in this world as well. I pray and hope that you are and your family is safe from this virus. I really hope that I am wrong and others are wrong about where we are headed. Somebody said to me today about being unrealistically positive, something like this, and I really hope that something happens. Maybe we find a vaccine, inshallah, God willing, or something just happens and it just completely turns around. I'm really hoping for that, But the way things are right now, I really wanted to share this message with you, and I hope you found it beneficial.